Hi, my name is John. I'm an addict in recovery, and I never really know what exactly I want to talk about. Um, but I've been thinking a lot about how people sometimes trying to mold you into something that you're not. Like they try to like tell you, this is the way you should be, or you shouldn't be like that, or don't do that because sometimes there's things that you shouldn't do, you know, because they're gonna hurt you or whatever. But like, like there's other things like, like how to like feel and shit, like not to feel some feelings, like not, you shouldn't be feeling like that. Like, like you can't really tell the heart how not to feel. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't really tell, you know, your spirit how like how not to feel, like because feelings sometimes you have to feel those feelings, like there's a reason why you're feeling those feelings, like there's got to be something behind it, and you need to like either feel the feeling and then investigate where that feeling is coming from, like exactly where it's coming from. Like sometimes some of my feelings are a result of something that happened to me sometime in the past, and like certain situations will bring up the same feeling again, and like sometimes I don't know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, but like it causes, you know, um, one feeling that usually comes to me like with no reason at all is depression, but like I can't, like there's no, like there's nothing that that's going on bad, for me to feel that way, but sometimes I be feeling it, and there's other feelings like feelings of anxiety or feelings of sadness or feelings of um, disappointment or discouragement. you know um, I mean there's a list full of feelings, like, and then there's good ones too, like happy feelings, and like excitement, um encouragement, you know um suspense, these different feelings that come up, as a result, but like most of the feelings that sometimes sometimes I feel anyway, like sometimes people turn around and say that you should feel, like especially people who are grieving, like they turn around and they tell you, oh, you shouldn't be feeling like that, that you should be over that, or you shouldn't be, like, you shouldn't you shouldn't uh you shouldn't grieve that way, or you shouldn't or like you should like it's time to get to move on, like really, come on, like somebody died and like somebody passed away in your life and you're supposed to like move on, like that, like really, I mean, you know there's really no right way to grieve, like people grieve the way they grieve. Like some people will eat, and some people will go out gambling, and some people will walk or run or exercise, or whatever you do, whatever you do, that's your form of grieving. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really up to you, like like no one should tell you how to grieve or how not to grieve. Like that should be something that you should be able to do and express yourself that way. Like you should be allowed that, and you shouldn't need somebody's permission to do that, to grieve. You know, and I mean, like if you haven't lost somebody in your life, like you shouldn't be telling somebody how to get through grieving, because you don't know what it feels like to lose somebody who's close to you, or who's who's family, or somebody you're really attached to. Like you can't really turn around and tell people how to do that. Anyway, I guess like I didn't really know what I was gonna talk about, but that's I think that's kind of like what I want to deal with, like the feelings of grieving, and that feeling of grieving, and you know moving on, like trying to move on, you know what I'm saying? But like like that feeling was it's never gonna go away, like you're gonna, I mean, you're not gonna grieve all the time, but you're always gonna feel that void, and you're always like, it's always gonna come up. Like, like whenever you see a movie about, people dying, or whenever you see somebody dying, or when somebody passes away, or whenever somebody else loses somebody, like you're gonna, that feeling is gonna always come up. Like you're always gonna remember, like, oh my goodness, like, oh, I lost somebody in my life, and how much you miss them, and you wishing that they were here for you to talk to them, and like if you could just talk to them one more time, or like if like if you just spend some more time with them, like, and like, if it, like, like if you could just call them on the phone, or you could just take them out, anything that you used to do with them, like, I mean, like, I just want to cry just from talking about, those feelings of grieving, because like, like I still feel inside, like I still feel inside the loss that I've lost, like the people that I've lost in my life. Like I still, like they're so still very close to me, and like I still feel, like some of that pain that you feel from grieving, and but you move on. I mean, like you remember that, that you have a program. You remember that, that no matter what, you don't use, no matter what, like there's no reason to use, like that's not gonna make it any better, like, but it's not bad for you to feel sad, and it's not bad for you to cry. And like crying is a natural emotion, like that's a human emotion. That's what makes us human, the fact that we can cry. Animals don't cry, you know, humans cry. You know what I'm saying? So like, crying, is a natural emotion, and like no one should tell you when to cry and when not to cry. Like, yeah, sometimes people just break out crying, for no reason at all, and a lot of times those people that have some type of a mental illness, or some type of problem, like with some type of mental illness or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But like, and I'm not saying that if you cry a lot that you have a mental illness. I'm just saying that, sometimes that happens, that people that have like some type of disability mentally, like they tend to like break out crying, like everything affects them, like like they have a hard time dealing with anything, like, and and if you wonder why I talk about, like mental illness, like I have some experience with that, like, like like I deal with that too, with that feeling, and but like if like if you're grieving, like grieve, like do whatever you have to do, just don't use, you know what I'm saying? Like do whatever you have to do. Like if you have to go run, or if you have to scream at people, or if you have to holler, or if you have to like, you know pray and scream at God, or whatever, whatever you have to do, as long as you don't use, you know what I'm saying? And always remember that, and no matter what, you have to practice those principles. Like remember that, that you're powerless, that you can't bring the person back to life, you can't, you're powerless over people, places, and things, and you're powerless over other people's reaction to that person dying. Like, like they ain't crying enough, or maybe they don't, like whatever you're thinking, like, you know uh, and that you're powerless, and that you need a power greater than yourself to restore you to sanity. And whatever that power is, like whatever you reach out to, like if you reach out to another recovering addict, like if you reach out to your sponsor, like if you reach out to a priest, like you reach out to your, to your pastor, or whatever, like whatever you reach out to, man, like that's the high, like if you reach out to God, like, and you might be mad at God, you know what I'm saying? But like tell God that, like say, look, God, I'm mad at you because you took away the person that I love, like, and whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like don't be afraid to express those feelings of grief, and you know, I I know that grieving is not easy, and you can't just walk away from that feeling. You just can't. You have to either feel it, and if you don't feel it, like, like if you try to cover it up, like, like you may end up using over it, and that's a possibility too. Like you might turn around and deal with it like, hey, look, I'm gonna use over this shit, and think that that's a good excuse. There really isn't a good enough excuse today to use. Like that's what we do, But if nobody told you they love you today, I love you. My higher power loves you. And just for today, you just don't have to use no matter what, and and remember that that we'll love you until you learn to love yourself, and remember to love yourself. Thanks for letting me share.